Hey, what's up? Lightbolt Joe here. Today we're going to discuss the 2017 action film Transformers: The Last Knight. This came out June 21st, 27th, 2017, one of those dates. Directed by Michael Bay, produced by Michael Bay, Steven Spielberg. I'm going to go down my list. Mark Wahlberg's in this, Anthony Hopkins, Josh Duhamel, Laura Haddock, Santiago Cabrera, Isabella Moner, Stanley Tucci is in this again, but he plays Merlin, of all things. John Turturro is in this again. So John Turturro and Josh Duhamel have been in 4 out of the 6 Transformers films. It was very interesting having John and Josh come back to the franchise after not being in it for the 4th. You also had shout-outs to Sam Witwicky, Shia LaBeouf's character, in this movie as well. I liked this a lot more than I expected, and I liked it a lot more than the 4th. The 4th was absolute garbage, so let's just put it that way. Age of Extinction was not good. It was too long. This movie itself is long, too. How long is this? Oh, I don't have my remote. It's over 2 hours. It's a long movie. Again, 30 to 45 minutes of this movie didn't have to be in it, but it had a good plot, despite the timeline not being correct, because that's a big plot hole, but we start out the movie in 484 AD with Lancelot, King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, the 12 Knights of the Round Table, and Merlin, the great wizard that he is. Turns out Merlin and his staff is because of Transformers that happen to be in ancient Britain, Briton, as it was called back then. The 12 Guardian Knights had given Merlin a staff infused with his DNA and their genetic coding to, help, because he's kept their secret, and they've bestowed him with magic, but the magic is actually science based off the Transformer Cybertronian way, So then Merlin is still seen as Merlin the Great because he's a wizard. So the Knights of the Round Table were founded for a House of the Witwicken, something like that. And the Witwickens have all been descendants of, going back to the Lancelot time, of great explorers and scientists and adversaries and all these different, political people. Going back to Archibald Witwicky, Sam Witwicky's great-great-grandfather who discovered Megatron in the Arctic, and Sam himself is a Witwicky. And we see him having a little picture in a archives, basically, that Anthony Hopkins' character runs. And he has this Transformer butler who's been around for 700 years, because of the time period. We then get originally we get a 1600 years later, right? But 1600 plus 484 is 2084. So this movie does not take place in 2084. The tech, like cell phones and stuff, and it's always been alluded that the timeline has always been the same. So the 2007 movie was 2007, in Transformers universe. So Cade Yeager fighting alongside Josh Duhamel and a slew of other people in this current movie is not 2084. It's not a thing, but semantics. Also, Bumblebee is revealed to have fought in World War II against zombies. Oh my god. Against Nazis. But according to Bumblebee, the 2018 movie, we see him in the 80s as his first arrival to Earth. But I have to rewatch Bumblebee because I feel like there is a brief time jump, and that might explain that 40s to 80s bit. But where was Bumblebee for 40 years? And I just need to confirm that, because the timeline's already off with the 484 and then 1600 years later. That's wrong. So I just got to double check with Bumblebee, because Bumblebee is the second greatest Transformers movie, without a doubt. You got Transformers, you got Bumblebee, you got Transformers 2. You got 3, you got 5, you got 4. I hear that. So this movie has a Knights of the Round Table-esque vibe. That the staff of Merlin is now the new item, of want. And a knight is the only one who can help find the staff, but the only descendant of Merlin who happens to be his character Vivian, can wield the staff. The staff to, you know, how do I explain this? The staff to stop the transmissions of Cybertron trying to reconnect by using Earth's stuff, but Earth is actually Unicron this entire time. Mind blown. That was another thing. So you have Unicron as the Earth battling, quote unquote, against Cybertron, who's trying to take over by getting the staff, right, to, you know, heal itself as a planet. But Unicron still hasn't, like, awoken. So you have this Quintessa goddess who is the creator of Optimus Prime. So Optimus is found on Cybertron. He eventually gets back to Cybertron after leaving the Earth after the 4th movie. And he faces off Quintessa. She kind of brainwashes him. So he is trying to, you know, destroy the world because he needs to destroy Unicron in order to make sure Cybertron is fine. But at the same time, Megatron makes a deal with Josh Duhamel and the U.S. government to get some Decepticons out, but because he wants the staff to save Cybertron. But eventually, Bumblebee fights Optimus, thanks to Cade Yeager being the knight because he's so brave, and he gets the talisman in Chicago. It all goes back to Chicago again. What was my point? Oh, B unbrainwashes Prime, and then eventually Vivian takes the staff. It was a pretty cool scene. It was a zero gravity scene. That was pretty neat. Yeah, and then Quintessa turns out not to be dead at the end after fighting Prime and Bumblebee, and she appears at a base of Unicron at some port in Africa and alludes to another movie. Now, whether or not we get a 6th Transformers movie in this line of films anytime soon, I don't know, but the Transformers films have not done well critically, aside from Bumblebee. Bumblebee had a 90-something% Rotten Tomatoes. Bumblebee's an incredible movie. It's an incredible alien movie. And it's an incredible coming-of-age movie, too. That's the other thing. We'll talk about Bumblebee. This is the next thing we're going to watch. But I thought this movie was interesting. I expected it to be worse. It was good. The timeline is off. I did like that there were Dinobots in this at the junkyard. I did like that there were baby Dinobots in this. I thought they were adorable. But yeah, it's weird because Quintessa is a goddess, apparently, and she's showing Optimus how she made him and the Transformers, but then the Transformers can make their own Transformers. So, I don't know. And then the Earthlings can make their own Transformers as well, that we find out in the 4th movie. It's just a lot of weird loopholes. But I did like the knight bravery aspect that Cade had. I also like that we get to know that Cade's daughter is in college. That's why she's not in this movie. I liked that Sam's family got a shout out with the Witwicken, you know, House of the Witwickens. That was pretty neat, despite us not knowing. Is he actually a descendant of Lancelot or, like, not? He's not a descendant of Merlin because Vivian's a descendant of Merlin. She's the last living descendant of Merlin, according to what Anthony Hopkins' curator character said. Unless Sam is also a descendant of Merlin and Sam is now dead, and that's why Vivian is the last one. But I didn't get that. I felt like Sam's Witwicken family was derived from the Lancelot line of the House of the Witwickens, and Merlin was like just like the magical bringer of stuff. I don't know. There was a lot of loopholes, but it was good. I sighed at a lot of points. So it's like, ugh, because they were dragging out scenes. Does not have to be over 2 hours long. But I did like a lot of it. And that's all I got. On to Bumblebee. Mucho mahalo.